Well, our guest, Nigel Farage, is back at the helm of UKIP after a rather brief, rather eventful attempt to become an MP for Buckingham at the last election. Glad you crawled out of that all right, by the way. The party's next big challenge is the local elections next year, and there are 80 UKIP councillors already. What do they actually do? Because arguably their influence on Brussels is practically zilch. Adam's been to a UKIP heartland to find out.
Lunchtime in the market in Newcastle-under-Lyme. How many of these do you sell?
Probably, say, about 10 a month, EU flags. So they're a steady seller.
That's surprising because this corner of Staffordshire has one of the highest concentrations of UKIP councillors anywhere in the country. There's about 23 of them at parish, district and county level. But what do these people actually do?
I deal with education, I deal with social services, right? You name it, and I deal with it. Sometimes there's problems that you can't resolve. You're always going to get that, but if a problem can be resolved, you can guarantee that Derek Upfield will resolve it.
And I suppose Europe doesn't really come up in any of those things, does it?
Not to me, no.
We're not classed as a party here, are we?
Classed as a party.
Because there's only 5 of us.
There's got to be 6.
There's got to be 6 of us to be classed as a party, you see. So where all the other councillors, you know, they've got their own offices and they've got their own secretary. We don't get that. In other words, we're the little people at the corner, but we make the most noise.
We have to go in the telephone box.
Yeah.
Let's get these leaflets out.
Their success here seems to be based on enthusiastic local campaigning by people like David Nixon, operating on a shoestring budget.
When we actually push the leaflets through, we also push a pizza leaflet through at the same time, or some other leaflets, and so the local businesses give us money to help us finance our campaign.
In May, the party plans to field 2,000 candidates for the local elections, but it's all part of a bigger strategy.
This party is going to be shaped and formed by the people that represent it. And your first tier of representation is going to be your parish councillor. Now, if you, the electorate, trust people to become your parish council, your borough council, your district council, your county councillor, the next step is you want them to become your MP.
Although, as Nigel Farage found out when he tried to win the Westminster seat of Buckingham, it's not quite that easy.
I think they will find it very difficult, just like the BNP. In Europe, they're helped by having a different electoral system. There's no doubt that a different electoral system at national level would have given them 15 or 20 seats last time. But it's a very difficult strategy with the first past the post. And they are still known as a single-issue party.
Labour held on to Newcastle-under-Lyme at the general election, but there's a theory that if UKIP hadn't been standing, it would have been taken by the Tories. And something similar could have happened in as many as 20 other marginal seats. Maybe that's the impact UKIP is having on the domestic market.
Well, as you know, Nigel Farage is with us. It doesn't make for very comfortable reading. So you've tried 5 times to get a seat in Westminster. Your party's won no seats at the last general election. You've lost 5 local councillors. Do you sometimes wake up and think, why on earth do I keep coming back for more with you?
Well, I mean, look, you know, if you look at the European elections, we've, for each successive election, gone higher and higher and higher, to the extent in 2009 we came second, beating the governing Labour Party across the entire United Kingdom. So, under a PR system, when the European question is to the fore, we do phenomenally well. First past the post is a nightmare for us, there's no question about that, because you're not perceived to be a party that might win in that constituency. So they say, Nigel, we agree with you, mate, absolutely, but we're not going to vote for you because we don't want the other lot to get in. Now, part of that problem, I mean, look, the Liberal Party was down to half a dozen MPs 30, 40 years ago. What Paddy Ashdown did in the 80s is he started to build the party from the bottom up, focusing on winning council by-elections, and changing the perception in some of those constituencies to the extent the voters thought, well, actually, maybe they're in with a chance. And what you've seen from that film is there are places like Staffordshire where we are beginning to do that.
Yeah, I mean, but also what was clear from the film, and I don't know what your take on this is that it seems like people who are under the UKIP umbrella don't like talking about UKIP very much. That they're almost acting like independent candidates. They don't really talk very much about Europe. They don't talk about UKIP very much. There's a discomfort around it because UKIP is weighed down by that single-issue millstone.
The idea that UKIP is a single-issue party is nonsense, although it's a very important single issue and becoming more important by the day. You know, 75% of our laws are made by Brussels, and as we're seeing from the Irish crisis, it's proving to be a very expensive club to be part of. Look, what we're about, we're a party that wants a smaller government, we want less government, we want lower taxes, and we want people to have more say.
You sound like the Tea Party.
Well, maybe the Tea Party sound like us, you know, but that's what we're after, and we feel there is a fundamental disconnect between the political class and ordinary voters.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you say, you know, maybe the Tea Party is taking after us, but that is a model that works in America, maybe because Americans are like they are, and we are very British, very different. We have a different mindset, a different emotional and political response. Even if you are the Tea Party here, it may not do you any favours.
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, look, you know, I fully accept that general elections are damn difficult for us, but our vote was up 50% in this general election from the one before. What we're seeing consistently with local council by-elections week after week is the UKIP share of the vote is rising, and we're going to have a real go next May.
How would you rate how David Cameron's doing on the European issue?
Surrender, surrender, surrender. He gives in on absolutely everything. And, you know, I talked earlier about those voters who say, Nigel, we agree with you, but we can't vote for you. There are millions of Eurosceptic, patriotic voters who were thinking, well, once David gets in, it'll all be different. He'll stand up for Britain, and he's no different to Gordon Brown.
How are your coffers looking? Because, as you say, it's very difficult, and it's even more difficult if you don't have any pennies in your pocket.
Well, I mean, we've just come through a leadership election, and during that period of time...
That was a mess, wasn't it, Nigel? I mean, in retrospect, you look back and think, what on earth was I thinking? Well, Lord Pearson didn't do you any favours, did he, really?
Look, Malcolm Pearson has given 20 years of his life to public service in this country.
That's
He's a wonderful bloke.
But he
He's
didn't
a wonderful
do very
bloke,
much
and
for
he
UKIP,
wasn't
did he?
particularly good at that job, I agree. OK, look, I made the decision to stand in Buckingham. I made the decision to get in that aircraft. You know, I do get some things wrong in life, but I'm back now at a time when for millions of voters from all parties, they don't see their politicians standing up for the country.
It's interesting, just the mindset of that, because you really put everything on the line to stand in Buckingham, and I just wonder, are you out of step with the British electorate? Do you? I mean, you know, maybe you sometimes think...
I'm a gambler.
Yeah.
I used to work in the commodity markets. I take chances. I take risks.
Well, interesting. Makes you an interesting guest on this programme.
I remember Malcolm Pearson invited me to his grouse moor in Scotland.
Yes, he also argued over how many thousands of acres he had, didn't he?
Another
you got it out
broken
by about
UKIP
5,000,
promise.
didn't you?
Have a word with it.